sa Anishinaabemowin. Mimang kaniget tetesh chitosi. Kaya mga mayami. Kapshkum jigna nashiba. Kapshkum jigna. Kung nag-gay no eva chijit. Jidek kenwat. Yawat. Mige yamanda. Atolagya. Anishinaabemowin. Joshua kitstosene. Katasene bagasin. Ken nawa. Katasene bagasin. Nungguge miwe enon the big would the estate. Mige yamon no walk it on. Ever awesome. Awesome. Wow. Ito suwet ni Mangkway naman, wanesh kidwin, Anishinaabemowin. Ito suwet, kakasinin dogs, mga shtaha, like suwa. Mababina, pakenda, nung bumina ka malpi. Sa men dogs, ito suwet. Meanwhile, and causing daily where they won't have it. Not some enough. Margaret and the age that swaying in the rock every day. Guy will say, I'm some house in Lord. They're not decorations, your ears. No. And you have two. Niche, two eyes, no. Two nostrils, one mouth to share all that you have seen in the world and you have heard and you have smelled. Many of these that you come across in life, you don't forget easily. One time I had a question. What's the word for many, many generations of stories that have been heard, maybe way back? Grandmothers and grandfathers. And when we think of what we store in our minds, today's technology, I've heard words of megabytes, gigabytes, blah, 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 blah. And so I got to thinking about the brain. So I kept asking, some people around. The response I went, what made you think of such a question? But I was raised to ask questions because that's how we learn, right? That's how we learn. And so I had asked another elder out there. The response I received was, oh, nanobites. Wow, that makes sense. Right away, when we think of nanobush, how old would he be? How old is Nanobush? He's still here today, and will still be here way into the future. There are many different versions of stories that have been shared about Nanobush. We may even have a few here in our audience that are related to Nanobush. Okay? And also some of the other things we've come across, many things in our lives. And also thinking of the, stories that were shared by the elders that are no longer here. And so those are stored in our memories. pass on to our little ones. And so they too will store that in their minds. And maybe someday they'll think of, oh yeah, my grandma, my auntie, oh, she told me that. And the other thing that I found was, in listening to the many stories that I had heard over many years, was that listening to the story itself would be able to take you to that place you had never been to. As you're listening to that person, there you are. You're going to that place as as they describe perhaps a terrain, what they see along the way. You feel that. You see it in your mind. And so that's how our language works. We feel it. One time, I saw a little girl at a bingo, and she's tapping her grandma. She's sitting there, she's figuring a few things to play with, to color. And she says, no, miss, Mama Linda, I'm sad. We go to the wow. Grandma says to her, Mama Linda, get our presents. Man, honey, Dash, get us no presents. I gave you Gabby one key. I finished working on my little book. I have nothing else to do. Man. Vida Schweb gave Beckishman the Gabishweb gave now. The influences of the colonizers gave Schweb at the boy. We are still here. And to be so thankful every single day. Every morning, when you're able to open up your beautiful eyes. Miigwech. 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 Gay ni penage kibishik wet chen dao me kedema shit. We still need to say match. And to feel that strong connection to the Creator, that's powerful. That will be when we need to, stay in touch with our spirituality, even though much has happened in the past. The little ups and downs we've had in life, we need to work on and let them go. One of the things that I encourage the many young people I speak with from time to time, and they're the ones that come to me, and I talk to you. Yes, of course, I now have more patience. Sure, I have time now, a lot of time. After walking the earth for many years, I've learned much in life to be able to help them. And not too long ago, here here in the community, I attended a session at the Hill Lodge. And in there were many, many people, and there was a couple there that came from Australia. And so we were split up into two groups. I went with this group, and this group had a circle pattern. And there was a doctor sitting in the group there, and other, non-native people as well. But it worked out where I had to offer with what I knew, with what I learned throughout the years. And I ended up raising my hand many times because it just fit in where had that something to offer. And so when the time came where we needed to go our separate ways, I had this young lady from Australia, and she called me over. She called me over, come in. Oh. And I so fell in love with her accent. It's a very strong accent. And she says to me, as you were speaking, and just the sound of your voice and the words that you shared here, you sound exactly like Nelson Mandela's wife. She said to me, oh my God, I never ever thought I would hear words like that. Wow. Who's to say that maybe I will get called to go overseas somewhere? I don't fly. I'll have to hop into my canoe. So that's what happened that day. What an uplifting feeling, And even at another time, I'd gone out to Woodford Hospital. Then I was still, puffing away my cigarette. I have since quit, and I'm very thankful for having been able to do that. That's the reason I'm still here. I still have a lot of work to do yet. And so, when I stepped out of the hospital, I came across this, non-native that was there, that very, an old man. Blue eyes. Nice color of blue, I thought. Just like the sky. And so he says to me, just like that, before I even said hello to him, he says, you people have been right all along. We should have listened to you. Whoa. Am I hearing this for sure? I thought to myself, am I hearing him right? But that is what he said. Wow. So, we're all here for a reason. We're meant to be here. Just like the other colors of people. And it is said that we have the four colors walking here on earth. We've been put here to help each other. But of course, we do have our differences. But to be able to get over this, and clean up our bundles, so to speak, okay? Every spring, we the women tend to clean out the house, right? We don't do chicken. The stuff you don't want, we get rid of it. With me, I am not able to throw anything at the landfill site as best as I can. I think of other people that are in need. or that would appreciate what it is I no longer want. Leaders already gaining, leadership one. No one than in 7 teachings. We get in on the rock in the one we the covenant or the warning in our team. Can another day that they will chibo kiki. Think before you say anything. What did it say to you? How do you feel? Leadership, that was one of the things that we were leadership, you know, come out the door, come out the market. That was always put to us. Help come. Come out the market. Even to open the door for an elder. Or even to maybe carry one of the bags for that elder. Do what you can. Do what you can. Because it in turn makes you feel good being helped. And so, especially when the elder will say, it's not chili rich. It's not chili rich. It's coming from the heart to you. A little bit of help that you were able to give. Kung mag-ison, hindi siya question ko one thing we can't get to him. Ni stage kini, ko ne urban traffic na mamada siya ni short sweat kino women. Namin Joshua, need not suffer. Need not suffer. None of what looks when God what purposely. What purposely to be reminded none. Ito then tama. None what. Said God connected and anciently. Need not get over. Be together one thing. And then we chicken strips of we have to clean upstairs. Pinche biteke po. Ito nenda manas na naman sa ketche spenda ko when she Midas na sa visual sweat kinomatuan ng kailangan. Malantam na din the mowing, respect. Menada ben magsijik e yawa. Then Besindo and what meanwhile come the name God. Bekish come not in West here, meanwhile Skakamek way. School sin way. Anishinaabemowin. There is a lot of power that comes from when you hear the language, the person that's speaking are able to understand. There's a lot of power in that. Equanimity, the second one. Now, respect. Okay, Manda. Not Ekonishi, the baden this way. The baden this way. Humility, Shakmashima. Gechik Don, we debate this year. Sit warm, done. Sit warm, done, the man. Bishke, Shibesian, me aware, Gashit, Nebesian. Yatagain, no ancestor once away. And consider their way. Their way. But kung hindi mo mag-imatch. Their way. Their way. Anishinaabemowin Conference. Kita kaya. Leaders gave truth. Truth. One key and opposite. This is done at the web webinar. Meanwhile, for web webinar, their webinar. Because mama at Koniwin, Akade, bravery gave bravery, courage. Menadak nan, Ishbin Marshi. Meanwhile, it cannot settle check. After that, when we just go in, meanwhile, what no that on cheap again. On that on cheap again. Don't give up. Don't give up. Anishinaabemowin, Zagid. Optimally Sharif. That means love in English. Zagid. What Tarkamik? APG love. Zagid. He was where Nicket Mavasa. Need the support. What the weak said much in the king. Me where Zagid. After school, see the back way. Me the swimmer where quarters every. Where quarters every. Honesty. Me where honesty. Where fortune. Economic. Meanwhile, coming yes, SGA. Guy, he won't come against my dad, kiddos, kiddo. Another swatch, what about the mom? Nabokawi. Wisdom, in Shakmashkit. Said what the way. Meanwhile, cannot swim dinner, get the mother zilting. Meanwhile, dash. Nekikenda, nekikenda, washe nausijige, eo marshi. Gene wokawin, we tegochi man, keno win. Anyway, Pangishe, the Shadamashi in Paris, and the Sakashima. Respect, accept people for who they are. Listen openly to others' opinions and be sensitive towards people's feelings. Humility, strive to become a modest person. Recognizing the accomplishments you have achieved in your life is gratification enough. Truth, be a trustworthy individual. Discuss only factual information and in turn seek out knowledge that is accurate. Bravery, take responsibility for your mistakes and meet unknown circumstances head on. Be a risk taker and do not let shortfalls discourage you. Love, I'm sure. Yeah. Show affection and fondness for those around you. Allow your family and friends to know you adore them unconditionally. Most importantly, love yourself. Every morning, you go to the washroom sink, wash your face. Of course, many times there's an area there. I love you. Say that to yourself. I love you. As you look in the mirror. Yeah. It's very uplifting. Honesty, be upfront about everything that you say or do. Your words, your actions should not have a hidden agenda or motive. And wisdom, be wise and gain knowledge through life experience. Furthermore, learn from your mistakes. Expand your wisdom to include teachings from elders and children. Wow. What Tat kami ezek pi 10,000 nandan. Keno matwin. Ni shosway. Ishbinu the nakshik not yet on the iwet no nikea. Chipwalk, but the co-wamba. But I mean, mark, Uncle Suck, Nick Edward. Count the stars in that big dipper that you see tonight. And let me know how many stars you see there. Meanwhile, Montague Batabama, Nick Egonesi Montreal, the Baba. He's watching. 7. No. 7. 7 stars. 7 holes being made there. Wow. Anishinaabemowin. Can you not doing on teachings? Wow. Stop. Stop. Shish. Me now get given. Shish. Me this way. Non c'è quel nome che sweat. E torna nel basso na. Sweat. Sweat shkode. 3 fires. We now measure the basso niwe. Niwe ba marshal the key yain. Niwe. Woman. Shalom, epigishmo, mina, iweno. No shwoe, mina, ni wit. Pikedam, na swat, ematsejik. Man piki, temsejik. Minoa, gay, guide, chicken beans, and the Dasi Nikki. Gay, who was just civil. There's a reason we've been placed here on earth. We are to bring that something as we arrive. We'll bring those smiles to your face like small. Yeah. And so we walk along. We learn and we give others what and there's a reason for making mistakes too. Part of learning, right? Yeah. So, each time you make a mistake, you need to learn something from it. Not to do it again, perhaps another way, look for that answer. Yeah. Now how? Me someone should go down son of a neck. Does anyone have a question? It's just going on in now. Eh? Me somewhere. Opportunity kitchen toss in there. Kitchen Pete $10 We're rich, and we have to do what we can to hang on to our language. When you have your language, it tells you who you are. For myself, I remember being that little girl. After school, I went. And there were times I was, who's standing in front of the class? Read story. Oh my gosh, I could every fiber in my body. Shock. I was tying knots. That was the most fearful thing to do. But it was my language that helped for me to be able to speak to a group of 200 people. Anishinaabemowin When I was done speaking to that group, the big group, I said, Chili Wedge, it's a strict one. I said to myself, I was able to speak, stand up. Wow, it's fun. Absolutely eccellente. Eccellente. Ma questo è vì sống em thì gì cả vì quét khóc sinh viên I'm very honored to actually be here and be your host today. You weren't here this morning. Lena Replay, Addition Cause, that's my name. I grew up here in Big but I live in Toronto. So the beauty of that is I get to learn from other nations as well. So we will have all the workshops on the main floor here, so there's no need to go up the stairs. Sure. I heard it, yay! My first, if you don't know, like, why am I in the city? I'm a multidisciplinary artist, and one of the things that I was inspired to do was to create art in Anishinaabemowin. So when I first attempted to write poetry in Anishinaabemowin, I said, go read in Anishinaabemowin fluently. But they say our language is poetry. So I just wanted to say that. And I got this. I really appreciated what Phyllis said about when we're done with something to get rid of it. I just finished decluttering my place, some late spring cleaning. But I bought this at Just Thrift, at a thrift store. And then the skirt was given to me. So I really like to live by that way too, not to use fast fashion or to just throw away my stuff in the garbage. So yeah. We will have Dominic Botry here back at 11 a.m. I didn't look at the time now. 10? Okay, so it's 10. So awesome, right on time. Miigwech Phyllis. So yeah, we have here, also, I don't know if you're aware, but the Robinson Huron Treaty Gathering will be here in this space tomorrow. So this is why our schedule might have changed a little bit. So yeah, the schedule here says we have the workshops Walking with Shtukamikwe in room 2, Wild Rice, room 8, Beaded Medallions, room 4, Water Teachings, room 6, Basic Communications, Anishinaabemowin, room 5, History/Genealogy, room 7, and Birch Bark Millwork, room 9. So that'll be taking place there. This room will continue to be open. However, we will have our workshops going on, and we will return here after that for Dominic Botry na Happy Bunch. I actually kind of like this down here. I'm going to keep this down here for now.
ready. So we're just gonna have a nutrition break till Dominic comes and speaks at 11. So we have to move our schedule around a little bit because we have Dominic speech tomorrow morning. So we have to move Dominic's speech from tomorrow to today. So there's no workshops on right now, I don't believe, but right, so it's okay. But if you want to take a nutrition break, we have snacks coming in right now, as well. You can get familiar with groups, where workshops are going out. I believe
You guys want to take over? Sounds good.
and you want to ask if the front there's a map there as to where all the workshops are being held. So you can get familiar with the workshops are for this week. And come back here for 11 fireworks for this week. Question?
Yeah. Why don't you just do that?
I will. Oh.
You're going to set up firewalls today?
Yep.
And then sleep tonight?
No.
How many firewalls are you setting up?
They're all separate networks, right? Yeah. Oh, so you get a couple of APs. Yeah, but every network we every network we yeah, it's because we have three networks. If we just had one Starlink and two APs,
If you're setting up firewalls in there, they give you like a clock.
we're gonna put them under the for that.
Drilled in.
Yeah. Well, just like, you know, they have this little, like where you put like a power bar on the wall. Yeah. I mean, what else are you going to do, right?
Not just firewalls.
I just kind of want to get one firewall. I see that big
Makes sense to do it.
one firewall, one Starlink. You know, that's perfect thing. Then it's power over Ethernet. You can push it wherever you want. You do the arena. When you can install a switch, find the yeah, 24. Dang. No, it's fine.
We all these 48 switches with like 3 buttons.
All day trip and he's busy too.
What's that? How do you gonna set
Yeah, I do. We don't have anything. We have 2 from the job. Yeah, we have diesel.
all 4 of them?
We are around 360. The main reason is you can't, you know how with Peter Pass you go like this? You can't do that with Smash. You can go like this. You know what I mean? It wouldn't be bad.
Well, it just have the range.
Yeah.
It'd be like right at like the front step of everybody.
Yeah.
But like not freaking.
Yeah. They would all have bad.
Yeah.
All right, I am so sorry. I made a mistake in my announcement. The workshops are actually, as it says on the agenda, they are starting at 11. And we do have a break for until 11. And also the Robinson Euro Community Gathering will be at the arena on Thursday from 9 till 12. But we did switch a lot of our scheduling because of the gathering. I'm hoping to attend that as well. So yeah, make sure you grab your feast bundles and keep them for the remainder of the conference because we are trying to think about Shukka Earth, right? And reuse those feast bundles throughout the week. Other announcements is at between 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. all 3 days, we will have Dan Kimwan outside by the road, cooking Indian corn and doing drop-ins and learns. And we also will have traditional fishing with Lauren Agawa outside 2:15 p.m. to 3:15 p.m. all 3 days. So, those might be good for the children. Yeah. And all that being said, time is 6. So it's 10:12 now. Yeah, so Dominic Butchery will also be speaking here at 11, and the workshops are at 11. Yeah, and that is due to the gathering. I may come back onto this mic later on in about a couple of minutes. Yeah.
We put it up there. And I'm talking.
All right. Ani again. So yeah, I'm very honored to be your host. This is my second time
ever hosting at an event as an MC, so I'm learning. Um, I'm honored to be here. Language speakers, I'll admit, I'm a little bit nervous because, as I said, Baki and Tagwa, only a little bit. Anishinaabemowin, I only speak a little bit. I could understand the language, and I know enough that I was able to teach Anishinaabemowin in Toronto. I taught the post-secondary level for, not post-secondary, secondary level for 7 years with Toronto District School Board. It's very different teaching Anishinaabemowin in the city than it is in Wikwemko, because a lot of the learners, when they're in grade 9 in Toronto, if they didn't go to First Nation school, or if they didn't go to Eastview Public School, a lot of them for grade 9 would be their first time ever learning Anishinaabemowin. Anyways, so that's how I relate to being here. I just decided to speak on the mic while I'm here. So a little bit of a storytelling. I got a gift at the Gab. Kikada, kikada, kikada. That is my gift. I could talk for 3 hours straight. Just kidding. Marianne's like, you're not. So one thing I wanted to share was when I went to Lakehead University at the Indigenous Language Instructors Program, I was surrounded by so much Crees in Toronto. And the Cree language, I don't know how to say Cree, do we say Cree moment? Or instead of Anishinaabemowin, I asked them, Cree moment? But yeah, I was surrounded by so much Crees in Toronto that one of my Cree friends, we used to gossip, eh? We would be like those little DVs, those Blue Jays, just gossiping about our vents. Maybe we would vent about some Jaganash inconveniences. And we would speak in our language so that they wouldn't know that we're talking about them. And even though she was speaking Cree and I was speaking Anishinaabemowin, I was able to understand her and she was able to understand me. And again, Bungi Etakwa, only a little bit I spoke. But one of the funny things that happened to me at Lakehead University was there's an elder there. Is his name Stuart? Stuart Roy from Chicky. He was like saying, he was asking us, what bird makes this sound? And he said, caw, caw. And I thought that was a crow. So I said, crow? And he said, caw, gawin. And I was like, what? Then he said, how do you say goose? And because I was hanging around with so much Crees, guess what I said? Anybody know Cree? I said, Niska! Niska! He said, whoa! I said, no! Not Niska! And the Crees started laughing at me because I told them, I said, because that's how you say goose in Cree, eh? Niska. So, I grew up here in Wikwemko, and I'm the oldest in the family. And back in 1998 was when I graduated high school, right? So I went big. They say go big or go home. So I always wanted to move to the city to be an artist. That's why I went there. That's why I'm still there. Um, but one of the things that I just wanted to share was my mom didn't want me to go because I was the oldest. She goes, "Oh, 'cause I didn't go straight to college or university. I took a year off, eh?" And she said, just stay here while you figure things out. And I said, no, I want to go over there. I want to go. So I went to Sudbury. I went to Ottawa for 9 months. I worked for Health Canada. But before I left, my dad was real scared, eh? You want to know what he was scared of? He wasn't scared of no gangsters. He wasn't scared of me, anything else. The thing he was scared of was the geese. He said, "Hey, you better watch over her. When you see you go over to that big city, you better watch out for those geese." And I started laughing at him. I'm like, "Geese, Dad? That's what you're afraid of? Geese?" He goes, "Yeah, you won't buy those geese, eh? And they got a big, huge wingspan. And what they're gonna do is they come up to you. When you see those geese, say, roll." And they're like, he said, "They're gonna come to you, and they're gonna take your arm, and they're gonna flip you over, and they're gonna break it." So I was like, "Yoy, I didn't know geese could do that." He said, "Yeah, I got attacked by a geese once." So he was always being attacked by animals everywhere. He got attacked by a frog. It's like, how do you get attacked by a frog? He had like all these little like frog prints on his shirt. But yeah, I moved to Toronto especially. They have lots of Crees. I moved to Toronto. And you know what? The Crees aren't even scared of those geese. I know Marianne over here is scared of geese. We were walking around Lakehead University. There was the geese gangsters walking up to us, looking all severe with their little loose lips. And Marianne's like, "Yo, let's not go that way. Let's not go to that way." And I said, "Don't worry, Marianne. We're going to be all right." She's all scared. She thought I was crazy. I said, "No, I know what to do. I've been surrounded by the Cree in Toronto." And you know what I did? The Crees tried to teach me a goose call, so this is how I do my goose call. I have the shittiest goose call ever, clearly. But you know what? You do that to the geese and they run away, right, Marianne? All those geese ran away. I was like, oh, I'm gonna write that down. Save this moment forever. But yeah, that's what you see the geese. Just do a shitty goose call. I would run away too. He says he would run away too. Yeah, you could also chase men away too. Just bark at them like a dog. Speaking of dogs, anyone here ever walk home late at night when they were growing up? You know, my best friend were actually down the street from me, Marianne and Jose, Mantuabi. I lived there by the tennis courts. My parents are Sally Nagusha, Sally Reckley. A lot of people tell me I sound like her when I speak. And Eugene Reckley, my nose, my dad. And so yeah, I lived right downtown there. And I would like be walking home after watching movies at Marianne's or after watching movies at Pam's. It'd be like, I don't know, 3 o'clock in the morning. Like we try to sneak home because I was late. My parents are worried. So I would leave Pam's house. Then you'd hear one dog. And then another dog would start. Next thing you know. Oh, the dogs! Like, do you ever have it too? One starts, and then the one neighborhood, and then the next block, and then next thing you know, all the dogs and Wiki are like, and that's how I would get busted coming home late, eh? My dad would get mad at me. Jeez, you woke me up. You woke up all the dogs. All the dogs are barking, and I can't go back to sleep. But that's what I was doing. I was watching movies. Probably watched all the movies that, as soon as they came out, and they were there at Andy's or at Lewis's. I think I still have a movie there that's overdue from Lewis's. It's not even my fault. It was my high school teacher's fault. He wanted us to watch that movie about that Haudenosaunee runner. And then he never gave it back to me. So then every time I go to Lewis's, they look at me all mad because I never brought that movie back. Just kidding. Just kidding. They didn't look at me all mad. But I felt guilty because they would ask about it. And I'd be like, it's not my fault. It was that teacher. He asked me to bring that movie and it just. Anyways, yeah, so that's why I moved to Toronto. There's lots of priests starting to be there now. They do need native language teachers in Toronto. I always throw that word out there. I took a leave of absence. I'm still taking my leave of absence. Third year. But yeah, anybody who wants to teach Anishinaabemowin, they're in desperate need. So I actually said that once. I said, holy, Anishinaabemowin must be in dire straits if Toronto District School Board's coming to me to teach Anishinaabemowin. Because Bunky Etiga, only little bit I know, I'm not fluent as much as the elders. And it's hard to when you're in the city. I'm picking up Cree words, picking up Haudenosaunee words, picking up Blackfoot words. I'm like gonna be multilingual soon. No, just kidding, I won't. I was making sure I learned Anishinaabemowin first before I even learn French. So that being said, I will dabble into some of my poetry as I tell the story of Anishinaabemowin while you guys wander around or you're sitting here. I was always scared for people to hear me sing. And I used to go to the hand drum circles in Toronto. Because when I was a kid, you want to know something real crazy? I was born in Toronto, eh? That's crazy. I was born in Toronto, and I thought it was Chinese. Because not many Anishinaabe lived in Toronto the way they do now. Now you see Anishinaabe everywhere, but back then, there was hardly any. And people used to think I was Chinese. I don't know if it was because of my hair. I used to have straight bangs. And I came home one time. I said, Mom, I'm Chinese, eh? And she said, Gaween, no? She said, you're Indian. I said, like Alex? She said, no. And then they took me to the Native Center. I watched too much of those little Lulu movie cartoons and Betty Boop, eh? I always see the natives in the movement, those cartoons dancing around trees. So this is a sad story actually, but it's good. Like I didn't believe in my own people back then when I was a kid. I thought native people were like little payas, I guess you could say. I thought they were just imaginary people that lived in the bush. And my mom and dad took me to the native center, and that was the first time I actually seen real our people, and they were all in regalia. But I still wasn't convinced. My mom and dad said, "That's who we are. We're Anishinaabe." I said, "No, those aren't real natives. Those aren't real Indians. Those are people pretending to be Indians." And my dad got real scared. He said, "Oh, it's not like over Wiki. She's gonna grow up lost. She doesn't even know." So I went through a little bit of culture shock, and we moved back here when I was in grade one. Tish Mantuabi was my teacher in grade one. Then grade two, I had BT Simon. And then in grade three, I had Miss Roy. And then grade four, I had Rosa Pinawanaput. And she made me sing in the choir. And I learned how to sing Old Canada and Anishinaabemowin. By then, I knew who I was. But when I moved to the city, I moved back when I was 19. It's almost like I had that culture again. Because then I was the only Anishinaabe in school again when I went to college for creative advertising. And then I wanted to explore arts. And then I went to the Native Center, Native Women's Resource Center to go to hand drumming. I was scared to sing in front of people, and hand drumming made me feel that empowerment, that because it didn't matter if we sang off key, it didn't matter if we sang too low or if it doesn't matter. All that matters is that we sing from the heart. And when I hear, even though Bunky Ekapa, that I speak in Anishinaabe, when I hear the word the way Chagan, I hear the word death, which is our heart. And that really resonates with me about the Chagan. And our vocables, when we sing with no words. So the first time I wrote a poem, I just was tapping. I used to ride the TTC back then. I didn't have a car, and I was tapping like this on my little notebook on the TTC. And then I just started quietly humming so that nobody would hear me. Because it was just coming to me, a vocal, and it was just like, way up, oh, way up, oh, way And then I recorded myself. And then I went home and I played it into my headphones after. And the next time I was on the subway, I was listening to that. Yeah, and then I started adding lyrics to it. We are women. No, I was saying I am. I was doing affirmation poetry. It started off as I am. I am woman. Where I am water. Beach. I am powerful, bravery, ancestral truth. So speaking. Keep it up, keep it up, keep it up, keep it up. That's when I was even less fluent than I am now. I was using my art to inspire inspired me to use Anishinaabemowin. But one thing I learned, the more I started learning Anishinaabemowin, I made a mistake. Because when we say the word dish, as I started learning the language, I started learning that dish is when water's in a container, right? When it's contained. And I learned that nebeh is when it's open water, like in a lake. And I was like, oh no, I gotta change the words to that song. Because if I say I'm beach, I'm saying I'm contained in a little cup or a container. I'd rather be nebeh. So I changed. Keep looking that. No, just kidding. Just kidding. I was waiting for a good opportunity to say it. To ask that question. I've never asked anyone that question before. I know it's just a bubble inside. So I changed the lyrics and I wanted to make it inclusive. So I changed it to We are women, quack, we are water. Maybe we are powerful, bravery, ancestral truth. So speak. Keep it up, keep it up, keep it up, keep it up. For you, for me, for life, for seeds, for life. Mother Earth. That was the song part of it. But the poetry part of it, I was a little bit angry. I was in a contemporary studies class in University of Toronto, and I used to be a little bit upset. So in order to lift my heaviness, I would take little breaks where I would write poetry. And so I felt like being in Toronto, sometimes I was put in the token role, so I ended up writing this poem called Historical Landmark. And the verse resisting resentment and anger because it makes us sick, because it's rooted in fear. Yet anger and fear inspire reaction, but prayer for action is wise. And I am strong enough now to look into your eyes and embrace that I am woman. I am water, Nabi. I am powerful revelry, ancestral truth. So speak. Keep it up, keep it up, keep it up, keep it up. Anyways, I just thought I would share that little story of how I did that. And if anyone is so inspired, you could do that. You know, it's a little bit of bravery, academic, and a little bit of keeping your mind open and don't judge yourself. And I think that goes with learning as well, right? I just wanted to say that. We could write our own songs. And I meet lots of non-Indigenous people when I'm in Toronto. When I sing that song, they tell me they understand what I'm saying. Because usually when I sing that song and I say Kikita, I'll go like this. Kikita, 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 Kikita. And they know that I'm saying talking. So maybe that is how naturally Toronto District School Board came to ask me to teach Anishinaabemowin. Maybe it was because of that. I don't know. I used to combine arts and Anishinaabemowin as an arts facilitator, and then it led me on the path to teaching Anishinaabemowin, and now I'm just back to focusing on my arts. But still, obviously, you know, I'm in conference and very honored to be your host MC. Who just got here by any chance? Anyone just get in here? You did? So I'm gonna revisit the announcement. The workshops will be starting at 11. Robinson Huron Treaty Gathering, we didn't want our schedules to conflict with the gathering tomorrow. So I don't want to mess up the information. I'm gonna grab your notes. The Robinson Huron Treaty Gathering will be on Thursday, that's tomorrow at the arena, 9 till 12. Our workshops here start at 11. Dominic Poetry will be here to speak at 11. So the schedule did switch around a little bit. So if you're just getting here now, that's what's going on. And that being said, there is 20 more minutes before I moved back home here to Weequahic home in 2011. And you know, I came here to be around Anishinaabemowin to hear the language, because you could go to Andy's. And that's what I used to do for fun. She laughs, you know what I mean? You could go to Andy's just for fun. When you're bored, you just go at Andy's and then there's people there. And everyone will say, Ani, Ani, and they start talking to you. But also you can hear people speaking to each other in Anishinaabemowin. I don't know if my mom will like me telling this story. But when I was a kid, the only time I heard her and my dad speak Anishinaabemowin was when they were talking to each other. And I used to think it was a secret language. And then I would say, hey, how come you guys only speak that secret language? And my mom goes, that's right, our language is sacred. I said, no, you guys only speak it when you don't want us to understand. And my dad would say, oh, but you sure know, hey, when you say, oh, then no, we're going to town. Here's per cup. So, you know, our language is sacred, but as I said, it could be a secret language, because then you could talk about the Jaganash. When you're in a restaurant and they won't know. No, just kidding. I shouldn't say that. I forgot where I was going with this. Oh yeah, I moved back home in 2011. I was just talking to Paige about how I was nervous coming here. And I've been saying, you know, I met Buffy St. Marie, eh? I did. I opened for her and I got a mentorship with her through the Imaginative Film Festival back in 2011. And you know what? Even Buffy St. Marie gets nervous. And she taught me this thing called square breathing. All performers get nervous. Anyone before you speak or do a presentation, like nerves are a natural thing, okay? So if you're gonna be teachers or if you're gonna get up and speak in Anishinaabemowin in front of people, I just wanna share that. We all get nervous. I was telling Paige this morning, I'm pretty sure even Beyonce gets nervous. I mean, she's got all these robots now, Beyonce, when she performs. I went to that concert, right? And I said, could you imagine being inside of a robot? underneath the stage, and then you're being uplifted from above the stage, and all of a sudden the robot opens up, and then you walk out. Like, sure, Beyonce gets nervous. I would be nervous if I was trapped inside of a robot on their stage and trusting that they'll like lift me up from out of there or fly me in the air while I'm sitting around. But what I'm going to say is square breathing goes like this. So Buffy St. Marie taught me square breathing because I was so nervous. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to open for Buffy St. Marie. Oh my God, oh my God. And she goes, okay, calm down. There's this thing called square breathing. So anytime you perform or you speak, it's almost the same stress level as getting in a car accident. That's what I was taught. That's the stress level. Okay, so square breathing, you could all do it. So you inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, hold it, and then exhale, 1, 2, 3, hold it, and then inhale, 1, 2, 3, and then exhale, 1, 2, 3, hold it. Inhale, 1, 2, 3. Exhale, 1, 2, 3. And that's how we ground and center ourselves. It's supposed to be squares. I think you do it 4 times. But I don't know why I did it 3 times. And we could all do that. And, oh, is that Sir Dominic Boje over there? I don't have my glasses on. No? Huh? Ah, okay. I'm getting to get there. I might look like I'm 28, but I need glasses. So I'm going to introduce Dominic. Dominic. I'm trying to look for 2020. Where are you? Oh, my phone just died. I was going to look up his bio. Minutes? Okay, so Dominic will be speaking in 10 minutes. I will continue on with my little story. Or that was my story. And I was nervous when I did that. But yeah, I was nervous, and yeah, obviously Marie gets nervous. I'm sure Dominic must be nervous. Are you nervous, Dominic? No, Dominic's not nervous. He doesn't have time to be nervous. He's a busy man, and yeah. So why did I open for Buffy St. Marie that year? I had made a short film about that song that I sang earlier. That and actually, I filmed it at the ruins, inside the ruins there, here in Wiki, because I was living in Wikwempong at the time. So I moved back home to Wikwempong and tried it out. The city girl trying to move back home from 2011 to 2013. At the time, I couldn't find much work, and I was always traveling back to Toronto. And so I ended up moving back to Toronto. But I used to supply teacher at Pontiac School, junior school as well. And I also was part-time in Chiging at the Anishinaabemowin Conference with Tekla, Nagani teaching. So somehow, when I moved home, I did end up on this path to learning or working with the Anishinaabemowin. And again, I'm honored to be here with somebody, like again, who's only a funky extra, like I'm a light speaker. I guess no matter how old I get, I'll probably always be learning. And yeah, so I moved back to Toronto in 2013. And then as soon as I moved back to Toronto, all of a sudden, everybody was like, oh, we need somebody to do these arts and Anishinaabemowin workshops at Native Women's Resource Center with the moms and babies. I was so nervous, I talked to Marie Gaudette, she's like, you could do it. And she goes, like, what? She goes, all you need to teach those babies is Ani, Anishna. You can speak to them in Anishinaabemowin, those songs, speak to them. And the paints I would draw, I would put the colors on there, I would write, Zawa, Gande, Makadewa. I would put all that on there and all the paints, and then I would be saying it out loud while I would be with them to art. Just some ideas. Are we ready to go? No, not 10 minutes yet? Okay. My phone died. I'm sorry. Oh, the time, okay, be quiet. So yeah, we still got 10 minutes. Yeah, so the journey to the it's very beautiful and also I get a little nervous sometimes. I remember when I went to that Indigenous Language Instructors program, and we were only allowed to speak Anishinaabemowin when we had our practicum. And I remember writing down everything I was going to say on a piece of paper because I could read the language, I could hear the language, but when it comes to speaking, I feel like it's freestyle in a way. I get nervous with that. And when I spoke all in Anishinaabemowin to those kids, I didn't know if they were going to understand me. I said, Anda, Nani Bue. And I asked them to stand in a circle. And it's a game. I don't know how many people are teachers in here. I see a that are in, I see one person up their hand. Anyone? Oh, that our teacher? And there's a game that I did. If you ever did art or acting or improv, it was called Zip Zap Soup. But instead of doing Zip Zap Soup, I did Mean, Keen, Ween. So this person or that person, and they could play that game with the students. They really love that game, and it helps them learn their conjugation. Another exercise I did, so when I did my practicum, there's setting up. When I did my practicum, so I said, lean. I told them, take your left hand, because it's closest to your heart, put it on your chest and say, lean. And they would do that. And if they're saying me, it goes that way. The energy of the circle goes that way, so then that person speaks. That person then chooses me, keen, or we. So if they say keen, they would point to the person across from them, and then it would be that person's turn to go. And then that person would have to choose me, keen, or we. If they choose we, they could choose either this way or that way, but it can't be right beside them. Okay? But another thing, the first exercise I did with them was they would be in a circle and I'd say, Lina Nadishnikas. And I would look at them. Anishinaabemowin. And at first they might not know if they don't know the game. And I'd say, I said, Nadishnikas, Lina. Lina Nadishnikas. Anishinaabemowin. And then they go, oh! Then they would say their name, right? When being in Toronto, like again, when I was saying, not when you teach there in Toronto, the kids, the students, the teenagers, they'll be in grade 9, and they would get Ani and Anishinaabemowin mixed up. And so I would have to break it down for them. Ani and Anishinaabemowin. And that's when I really realized when people are in an urban setting, how the language is not as heard or spoken like the way it is here in our reserves and our communities. One thing I noticed about the Cree is they do a lot of land-based learning. They go out and they hunt. They hunt, and while they're out there hunting, they're learning their language. And I did notice that a lot of the Cree are very fluent. Is that, am I right? You know what I say? I recognize you. What's your name again? But yeah, he was there too at Indigenous Language Instructors Program. We were hanging out with the Crees. So, I just wanted to share that. I kind of lost track of where I was going with that. But also, the population in urban settings is increasing for Anishinaabemowin, Cree, Blackfoot, all our First Nations people, a lot of them are moving to the cities, right? So that's the struggle that the urban language speakers, language teachers over there in the urban setting are facing. So now that I'm getting into education, we have Dominic Poetry. I follow him on Facebook. He's always making these cool statuses with our words and our language. And I feel that is a very good way as for someone like me who's far from home to absorb that language. You could absorb that language on Facebook. I don't know where Mala went. Mala too, I see him singing. There he is, I see his post too singing. So I want to say miigwech to the fluent speakers who make their posts like what Dominic Poetry does here. He'll say the words, he'll tell you what it means, and if he doesn't know, he asks. And sometimes there's comments people make, they'll give input. We have so many different dialects, right? So many different dialects. And interestingly enough, we could understand our different dialects. And that's part of the open-mindedness that comes. So anyways, that being said, I introduce Dominic Poetry. He'll tell you a little bit more about himself. Last time I knew he was working with the Ministry of Education He's been working, he also worked at Laurentian University, and he is coming here. He also worked here at the Board of Ed in Miquenco. He's a leader in Anishinaabemowin and in education. Economia, language, and I introduce to you Dominic.
Sumibay Selena. Ani Kinuya. My name is Dominic Beaudry. As Lynn indicated, I'm the Associate Vice President of Academic and Indigenous Programs at Laurentian University. I've been there for about a year now. I'm really enjoying the work there. So I've been told that there's some new language learners, and there's also some that have known the language for quite some time. So I'm just going to teach you two words this morning. You probably already know them, but I want you to say them out loud. The first one is ani. All together, a little bit louder, ani. The second word is nichkewan. A little louder, nichkewan. So put those together, ani, nichkewan. Okay. So I need everybody to please stand up. If you go to at least two people near you and you give them a high five or a high 10, and you say, I need to win. Okay, you make me sit. So we all have more friends now this morning, right? So I need hello, means when. So I need when. So the powwows this weekend, you can see a lot of people there. Should I use a little bit of Anishinaabemowin and say I need when. So I presented at a number of conferences in the past, and one of the things that I noticed is we don't focus too much on the history of Anishinaabe people. So this morning I'm going to do a brief overview of Anishinaabe people, the history of our people. But I'm going to do it using Anishinaabe where I can. So the reason why I think it's important, because if students or learners want to learn Anishinaabe, they should know the people whose language they're about to learn, so their own history. So in the last year, I've become even more engaged in wanting to learn about the true history of Anishinaabe people. Not because of being Anishinaabe, but because of truth and reconciliation, and trying to tell the true story, the true history of Anishinaabe people. So what I found out is in 1492, I guess Columbus got lost and somebody found him in the Caribbean. But that was the first time Europeans were in the Americas or in our area. And in 1493, the Pope in Rome created a papal bull. So the papal bull indicated that if you're out in the free world discovering and you come across lands and there's no civilization and there's no Christianity, the land can be yours. So they also call that terra nullius. So what that means is they recreated our history to justify taking the land and the resources, the language and the culture. So they recreated our history. They reinvented us. So that's part of the papal bull. But today I want to talk about Anishinaabe people, who they really were. And I think the approach that I use when I research is I don't just use history, but I also use anthropology, archaeology, and language. In my younger years, I thought anthropology was such a terrible word. where they study Anishinaabe people under a microscope. But now I think it's a really meaningful word because our history wasn't written in the past. But we can use anthropology to reinterpret our history today. And what I mean by that is if you were to go to Mexico and you see the pyramids or their ancient buildings, you don't even need to read a history book. That image that you see in front of you will tell you their history, a story about who they are. So that's also called anthropology and archaeology. So Anishinaabe people need to use those disciplines as well, so we can piece our history together. So we've been told from the very beginning that only the Iroquois, the Haudenosaunee were agricultural people. But the Anishinaabe were agricultural people as well. So what I mean by that is we grew a lot of food, a lot of agriculture. And how do we know that? Well, for those of us that speak Anishinaabe, we have agricultural surnames in our community, or agricultural names like Bendamen, meaning corn, or people with corn. We have Kusman meaning pumpkin. We have a variety of surnames in the historical documents that indicate everything that we did as Anishinaabe people involved agriculture. Up here, it says agricultural science and technology for soil, cultivation and harvesting. So the three sisters, Mendamen, Riscolisben, Kusman, corn, beans, and squash. These three sisters, the corn stalk was grown first because they used the stalk as a trellis to bring the bean out the ground. And the squash was used to prevent insects from eating the plant. So they already understood plant science 400 or 500 years ago. And how do we know that? Because they tell us. But when I do research, they don't already tell you who you are. You have to sift through the documents. So I've been working on a journal article the last 2 months, and I hope to have it published soon. So another thing about corn, beans, and squash is it creates a chemical reaction, which creates nitrogen fixation. You can't grow food without nitrogen fixation. So how did the Anishinaabe figure that out? Centuries ago or thousands of years ago, because it's called indigenous knowledge and indigenous science. And how come we don't know too much about this today? Because we were sent to residential schools, and they erased a lot of our historical narratives. So what does that mean? Is we have to puzzle and piece together our true history. So don't let anybody tell you we were simply hunter and gatherers, needed to be civilized. We had complete agriculture. When you look at a pumpkin, a kusman, the most important part of a pumpkin is the pumpkin seeds. Because the pumpkin seeds are a superfood. It's a complete protein. So you can eat a New York strip sirloin and get X amount of energy and protein from it, but you can get the same amount of energy from a handful of pumpkin seeds. So a lot of vegetarians and vegans understand that. You don't necessarily need to eat animals or meat in order to be nutritionally dense. So the reason why I want to talk about agriculture is we need to begin to view our history as contributing to the world that we live in. And what I mean by that is a lot of the food that we grew as Anishinaabe people was non-existent in Europe or other parts of the world. In fact, 60 to 70% of the agricultural food we eat today is from Anishinaabemowin people. But they don't want us to know that. Because they needed to justify taking our land. So they reinvented the Indian into a hunter-gatherer society stuck in time. when in fact we're a complex, organized agricultural community. And I'm going to show that this morning. The other thing I wanted to talk about is corn, beans, and squash. Corn, beans, squash, tomatoes, potatoes. Potatoes are also an indigenous food. They didn't have potatoes, corn, beans, and squash in Europe, in France, England, nowhere, China. These foods come from the Americas, come from indigenous knowledge and indigenous botanists. Residential schools wipe that out. They don't want us to know that because they want to justify why they keep taking our land, or they want to justify in the courts why we shouldn't get our land. There are more than 4,000 varieties of potatoes found in the Americas, the third most important crop in the world after wheat, rice, and wheat. 4,000 varieties of potatoes. There's a museum in Peru dedicated just to potatoes. You can research that, you can Google that, have a look. Why is this important? Because the potato transformed Western Europe. They took our indigenous knowledge and they built an empire, the British Empire. They created an empire using our food. Okay, they had an agricultural revolution. So there's a place in Michigan called Pinconning. Pinconning literally means potato garden. Pinconning. There's a city. You can research it. They spell it Pinconning. Pinconning. So what that means is those people that lived in that region, their expertise and their economic way of life was producing lots of potatoes. The other thing too is many of us may have heard of the Irish potato famine. Here's a prime example of Europeans not respecting indigenous knowledge, because they only took 3 varieties of potatoes to Western Europe. And when those varieties failed, they had a potato famine. They completely wiped out their civilization, and they had to relocate. Okay? Had they taken maybe 100 varieties, there would not have been a potato famine. So this is what I mean by they don't respect indigenous knowledge. So this is an Anishinaabe community called Sekotan, and it's from 1585. It's a long time ago. When the Europeans first arrived, these are the communities that they see. They didn't see us running around with a loincloth chasing buffalo or deer, although we did that, but our primary mode of activity was agriculture. Complex, organized economic activities engaged in agriculture. So this is not a community, it's a painting by John White, it's in the British Museum in London. So you'll see these longhouses, but you'll also see storage houses. So in this sketch you see corn, beans, and squash, tomatoes, potatoes. Every food you can imagine is being grown in this community. So one could imagine that the entire eastern part of North America, as well as the Great Lakes, had similar Anishinaabe communities. This is not a Haudenosaunee community. This is not an Iroquois community. This is an Anishinaabe community on the eastern seaboard of the Carolinas, between North and South Carolina, a place called Sekotan. So this picture tells you a lot. It tells you that 1585, when the settlers, the colonists began to arrive, they don't see indigenous people barely surviving off the land. They find indigenous people organizing complex economic activities. And agriculture was one of their most important trade items, right? Food security, we call it today. food security was very important to Anishinaabe people. So Anishinaabe people are not just in the Great Lakes region. We go far down as Florida. When you study the different nations along the United States, they're also Anishinaabe speaking people. This is a book that very few people have heard about. It's called The Columbian Exchange. But the exchange involves all different types of indigenous knowledge in indigenous agriculture being taken from Third Island and taken to Western Europe and other parts of the world. So some of the items include tobacco, pumpkin, turkey, quinine, potatoes, sweet potatoes, squash, avocado, pineapple, cocoa bean, pepper, cassiola, peanuts, potatoes, tomatoes, corn, beans, vanilla. That's indigenous knowledge. In fact, they use their indigenous knowledge to transform Western Europe into a modern agricultural revolution. Indigenous knowledge transformed their way of life. So Europeans aren't European or they're English. They're who they are because of indigenous knowledge. And they appropriate that. What that means is they steal, they appropriate, they borrow. Okay? So part of the job, my job when I worked at Laurentian University, is we begin to tell these indigenous narratives that are more accurate than in the past, where we were told, oh, we're going to take your land because you don't know how to use it. Excuse me, you had an agricultural revolution based on our entire agricultural produce. Does that mean something? Of course it does. It's very impactful. We need to teach that to all our community members. This is Anishinaabe history. This is Anishinaabe historiography. What did they bring over here? They brought disease like malaria, diphtheria, whooping cough, smallpox, influenza, typhus, measles, and they brought us the cow. They brought grains, wheat, honeybees, citrus fruits, pears, peaches, coffee beans. A lot of those are from Africa. They're not actually from Europe. So there's very little exchange from Western Europe. Most of the exchange is from throughout the other parts of the old world. But our exchange is from indigenous knowledge from the Americas, from the Great Lakes region, North America, South America. Our trade was north-south. Now, I'm not arguing we invented corn, beans, and squash in agriculture. A lot of this occurred in the Mexico, Central American region. However, the produce that we developed was genetically engineered for our region, for our temperature, for our soil. So that's called indigenous botany. We expanded on that knowledge. In fact, there's no gourds or pumpkins in Mexico. So there's many produce that we developed in the Great Lakes region that are ours. So this is called the Columbian Exchange. So not only did they take gold and silver from the Americas, but they also took our food security. Okay? So the world's food security relies on indigenous knowledge in 2023. We're not expecting the past. This is knowledge that we need to reappropriate because it belongs to us. This is Anishinaabe portable ceramic pottery, Wabe, used for cooking and storing food and processing maple sugar. So this is from 500 BC. That's a long time ago. And it's the Anishinaabe cooking pot. It's at the Canadian Museum of History, CAG1-1-1. So why am I showing this? Well, first of all, in Anishinaabe, who can tell me how to say clay in Anishinaabe? Clay. Anybody? Clay. Wabagan. Yes, Wabagan. Can anybody tell me how to say a pot or a pot in Ojibwe? Cake. And a maker is ke. Waba ke. Wabagan ke. The language was syncopated. It was made smaller, like Wakunakam Wiki. You know, we shorten our words. Or Chiki Wedno, Chiki. We shorten our words. So Wabagan ke is Waba ke. I found that in an anthropological journal that said, this is from the northwestern Ontario, their word for pottery maker is Wabakikka. When I broke down the word, Wabakikka. So Anishinaabe were also pottery makers. Not just the Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabe people. We have clay cliffs in and around Manitoulin Island. There's one large one near Birch Island. By the way, there's a street Birch Island called Wabakikka. The surname still exists there. Okay, so we were pottery makers. So why am I talking about pottery? Because it's an implement, it's a tool. So anthropologists will say, if you have an agricultural economy and revolution, how did you process your food? Out of a wooden bowl? No, we had ceramics, we had pottery. Okay? We've had it for thousands of years. But it becomes erased in residential school, or people don't focus on it in residential school, and we don't focus on it even today. But pottery is actually really important in terms of being an agricultural society. So they found a 70-liter pot near Deep River, Ontario. You know, you drive towards Ottawa, I think it's Highway 17. So Deep River, a place called Copland, they found a 70-liter ceramic pot with sediments of maple sugar on the bottom. Oh my gosh, they were boiling maple sap in massive ceramic pots thousands of years ago. But here they are telling us, oh, you mustn't use hot rocks in a wooden bowl. Because they want to simplify indigenous knowledge and indigenous people. They don't want us to see we were capable of an advanced technology. So something as simple as pottery is a tool as being part of your agricultural society. So someone once told me science, technology, engineering, and math. The Anishinaabe didn't have that. But if you look at our technology, something as simple as a canoe, that's a science. You need to know what kind of bark you're going to use, you need to know the thickness of the bark. It's technology, it's a mode of transportation. It's engineering. You take the wood, you put it in a boiling ceramic pot, and you bend it. That's engineering, math. Everything to do with that canoe is math. This is ancient science, technology, engineering, and math, right? So we need to frame the way we see the world in that way. So we were one of the first people engaged and involved in science, technology, engineering, and math. What's our example? A simple birch bark canoe. That will give you STEM. There's a place in Michigan called Sheboygan. So I was told by some elders that Sheboygan actually means Jebwagan, which is a paddle, a canoe paddle. So Jebwagan, so we constructed probably 100 different types of canoes. Some canoes for leisure, some for trade, some for carrying hides and fur, some for portage, many different types of canoes. There wasn't just one simple canoe. As well, many different types of canoe paddles. So Jebway canoe paddles are made from ash and maple trees, cedar, pine used for lightweight paddling. That too is engineering. You don't just use a stick. You don't just use any type of wood. You're going to find wood that's going to be flexible, that's not going to be cracked or break. That's a science in itself as well. So the canoe here on the top is pictographs from a very, very long time ago. Some of them are dated 200 years, some of them are dated 2,500 years. You'll find them near Killarney, you'll find them around the Great Lakes region, but the most important expansive ones that we're looking at right now are from Egwa area, Lake Superior. So that's the top one. The bottom one is a canoe that was fabricated and constructed right here at the Wichita High School by our students, right? So the technology from the past, we're still connected to it in the present. So our students over a semester and with support from technologists and folks that are really knowledgeable about fabricating canoes, they constructed it here. And part of some of the project is, well, it float. Not only did it float, they entered in a competition from Little Current to Killarney. So initially the students were going to be part of the canoe race, but because of the insurance, you have to be 21 years and over. So instead we got folks in the community. So that's my son, the fourth guy from the front. And the sixth guy from the front is our former Chief Duke Pelche. So they actually canoe paddled from Little Kirk to Killarney. So I asked my son, I thought you said you were in really good shape and you guys are going to win this. He goes, Dad, we could have won. But Chief Duke Pelche kept making us stop so we could have a cigarette break. So I put this up there because our culture and our way of life is also on the water. An elder once told me that the pictograph on the top represented the Shidishi, the water serpent. So if you don't put tobacco down, the water serpent will stir up the waters of Lake Superior, bring your canoe under the water. So you have to put your tobacco down. But he also said that in order to traverse those waters, you need a certain horsepower. So the horsepower is 8. So there's 8 people sitting in that canoe in that pictograph. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Coincidentally, there's 8 people sitting on the bottom line, right? So history, we're engaged in learning about our history and ensuring that we make those connections moving into the future. Can anybody tell me our word for fence in Ojibwe? Fence? Lichikan, yeah. So a lichikan is a fence. So an elder from Rama said a fishware is a lichikan, meaning an underwater fence. So the Midjikaning fishwares near Rama is a National Historic Site. It's at Lake Simcoe and Pochichin. It was built 2,500 BC. So earlier when I talked about STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math, there's science involved when you create a massive fishware. So that's a sketch of it on top, and on the bottom is an underwater photograph. Anthropologists were studying and dating how old is this, and how expansive was it. So what this tells us is we weren't only engaged in agriculture, corn, beef, squash, grains, potatoes, but we're also engaged in harvesting fish. Multiple varieties of fish, different types of fish. Every types of fish you can imagine the Anishinaabemowin harvested. So although we use various devices to capture fish. You can use a stick, you can use a hook, but if you're engaged in a fishing economy, you're going to use technology where you're going to be able to capture a lot more fish. And if you're engaged in an economic activity, you're going to create a fish web. Okay? So the way they constructed this fishware also is they did it in a way where stewardship is important, where they're going to allow the smaller fish to go through the fence. So they constructed in that way. So this is a science, this is a technology, this is engineering and math. So the anthropologists are now saying, you don't just construct a massive fishware like that. They must have known the cycle of the water levels in the Great Lakes, or in that region. And when the cycle of water levels come down, you would be able to build a massive fishware like this. So 2500 BC, by the way, was also the same time period that we were building the pyramids of Giza. So there's also amazing science, technology, engineering, and math happening here in the Americas. In fact, in our back door over at Rama, at Najiki. Okay, so agriculture, fishing economy, it's complex, organized Anishinaabe people engaged in a meaningful economic life, economic growth. Agam, snowshoe. Snowshoes are made of ash. You know, even when you're looking at snowshoes, our people traveled during the 4 seasons. So we created technology to move from here to there. So one of the first things that you want to indigenous ingenuity, like you're inventing, is something to make your lives a bit easier. So transportation and travel was the initial reason for the snowshoe in the winter. Later, the snowshoe was used for maple sugaring because during that period the snow is still quite high between the trees. Not like now where we have global warming and not so much concerns. But there was a period where snowshoes were extremely important, and those that were producing them served a really important role in each of our communities. So those are the different types of snowshoes. Bagat the way. Ojibwe bagat the way. So from my research, a lot of the original sticks were made out of hickory. So this is the evolution of the stick from the beginning to the present. So the present, in the past, they used different types of wood. To the present, where they're using plastic and even metal in some instances. I'm really interested and engaged in the cause as well. I have 2 granddaughters that live in the Niagara region, and they're both really involved in the sport. So I wanted to make sure to include Bagatawe. So our word in our language for a shovel is, can you tell me how we say shovel in Ojibwe? Bagabik. Bagabik, Bagatawe, Bagatawe, lacrosse, okay? Bagwedwe, Bagatawe. So we Anishinaabe people invented lacrosse. For whatever reason, we've abandoned the sport in Northern Ontario. Well, historically, lacrosse was huge on Manitoulin in the Sault Ste. Marie region in Minnesota. It was the #1 sport during the contact period. For some reason, baseball and hockey took over in our area, but just to let you know that a lot of First Nations were engaged in lacrosse. So the reason why I talk about sport is, if you're a hunter-gatherer society, barely surviving in the harsh climates of the world that you live in, you don't have time for recreation because you're barely surviving. But no, we're not really surviving during this time period. We're thriving economically. We're an agricultural community. We're fishermen. We're a fishing society. We're an agricultural society. Because you have more time and you master the art of agriculture, you're going to invent sports like lacrosse and hockey, right? The oldest hockey stick in Canada comes from the Mi'kmaq. It's at the Canadian Museum, right? So they're saying the big man invented the hockey stick, but not hockey. How could that be, right? So hockey is a variety of lacrosse. But I wanted to put this here just to show that when you look at ancient civilizations, those that invent multiple sports are engaged in those activities because they're not busy just barely surviving. They're engaged in a complex, thriving economy that gives them time, the joy, recreation, and pleasure to create and invent a variety of sports. So Ojibwe, British toboggan used to collect sap during maple sugar season for winter travel and later used for recreational activities. The settlers, when they arrived in the Montreal region, they were really spooked and confused. They would see these people come down this massive mountain, which is a ski hill today, and they were engaged in recreational activities in the winter. They were sliding down these massive hills. In fact, they were engaged in a little bit of gambling. They were seeing who's going to come down the hill the quickest on their toboggan, right? So these are some of the winter activities that the Anishinaabe people were engaging during the contact period. But of course, the toboggan gets converted into a ski, so you're no longer tobogganing down the hill, you're skiing down these hills, right? But the technology was there. So toboggan is initially a technology. This is an old sketch. Ojibwe Maple Sugar Camp, 1856. The report indicates 400,000 pounds of sugar made in one season. So you can see the snowshoes there. So it's part of the maple sugar process. You can see a toboggan on the side of the lodge. They're using toboggans to pick up these makakmusan, full of ziwagmede, Anishinaabe. So why would Anishinaabe people be producing 400,000 pounds of maple sugar in 1 year, where there's 12 schooners in the Wakumekong Bay, and we're loading it into these barrels that the Coopers made. The Coopers are barrel makers, and they would take this brown sugar to Upper and Lower Canada, Toronto, Montreal. Why would they do that? Because they don't have white granulated sugar. That comes later. The only way to sweeten your food is through brown maple sugar during that period. So Anishinaabe people were called Zizabakadokagimok, the sugar peoples, right? Well, there's multiple reasons why they call us sugar peoples. So, yes, this is our history. So, just think. So initially, when we looked at this information, well, how would they possibly have made all that sugar in these wooden bowls or these dug out wooden trees turned into a bowl? You boil your rocks and you throw your rocks in there. We were not primitive, that primitive, although maybe some people did that. But how can we find in ceramic pots 70 liters, massive, with residue of sugar? I believe we were producing massive amounts of sugar using pottery and ceramics, right? Let's put 2 and 3 together. But my cousin Rose is in the back. She's also a maple sugar producer and maple syrup producer, and part of this information is on the label. So those are collector item bottles, so don't throw this away. Our history is involved spread into her bottle. So that's a Zizbakadon Gamak. Gima is a non-gender word. You don't have to say Gamak or Gimon in it. Gima is a non-gender word. Okay? We put gender into everything today. But Gima, when you count, what's our word? Gim. Gima, the counted one. The counted one becomes the leader. It doesn't say the male counted one, the female counted one. Gima, the counted one, the one elected. Okay? So you don't have to say, give on quest. So, these Bible okay remarks in reference to men and women. Uh-huh. And if you need any of that stuff, Rose is in the back row. That's my trial joke. Toboggan. So Ojibwe technology is designed for shock absorbing ride. So, you know, when you drive a car, in the old days you had these old leaf springs, but later you had these coils, now you have this technology, air ride. The first shock absorbing technology in Americas was these things, right? Sleds, toboggan. What's another word for toboggan? Unconsent. So the technology, science, technology, engineering, math, it is quite ancient STEM, but we still need to acknowledge that you didn't simply drive around a toboggan and you're hitting every bump, but you're getting on a sled and you're absorbing the ride using technology, right? The legend of Ojibwe John Gregory's in the annual dog sled marathon. It used to be a 400-mile race at Minnesota, honoring one of the first Ojibwe mail carriers. So that technology that I showed earlier, they used that. The first mail carriers in the Great Lakes region were actually Anishinaabe Ojibwe people. They carried the mail from upper lower Canada to St. Marie going out west. They carried produce, they can carry trade items, all sorts of things. Okay? So this is a form of technology, and this is a form of Anishinaabe people adapting. We're not stuck as hunter-gatherers. We evolved even after now we're engaged in carrying mail, carrying information, right? So this guy did such a great job at it. He was one of the fastest mail carriers around. They honored him with this dog sled race in that area. So this is an old archival sketch that I found. So Berto Amherst Wilkinson, the mail carried across Lake Huron from Penicanishi to Sault Ste. Marie, March 1853. Credit Library and Archives of Canada. As it says the number if you want to look at the document. So, there's your Anishinaabe people carrying mail in the middle of the 1800s. This is a profession. We're adapting to change. We're part of this changing landscape, this changing world that we find ourselves in. We're not stuck. We're evolving, we're integrating, we're not static, right? So there's your technology. There's your on-coast set, there's your toboggan, there's your sled, there's your snowshoe, there's your moccasins. Even the dogs are wearing moccasins, right? They're protecting their animals. So we begin to want to learn more about Anishinaabemowin because we begin to get a better understanding of who we are as Anishinaabe people in history. If we accept simply as being hunter-gatherers and we need to be civilized, maybe we don't want to learn the language. But if we become to understand how complex and organized and how meaningful our historical past was, then language becomes very important. Earlier I talked about recreation, like canoe races, dog sled races, lacrosse, hockey. There's something called snow skate. Raise your hands if you've heard of the snow skate game. Okay? So a few of you understand. So there's a place called Lake Wolsey on the west end of Manitoulin. It used to be called Obidjewang. Abajuwang. There's Webjuwang Wilker, Abajuwang Lake Wolsey. So Lake Wolsey looks like a little lake, but it's actually not a lake. There's an opening, but the water swirls around Abajuwang. That's the name of it. So the people that used to live around Abajuwang after the treaty moved to Segma, and some of them to Sault Ste. Marie, they say it was abandoned. It was pushed up by settlers. They were pushed up by settlers. The reason why I talk about it is the historical documents that I find. They used to have a snow snake in Abajuwang. When the water would freeze over, it would be like a really near like a skating rink. So all the men and some of the women used to go ice fish in the winter. So rather than walk all the way to the middle of the lake in the middle of winter, it's cold out, and you want to send that person a message, you would put a message and you would attach it to a snow snake, a stick, and then you would whip it across the ice. And then they would take the snow snake and they would read the message. And they would say, God, what did they see? And then they would put it back on and they would whip the snow snake back. Later, it's a technology, it's a form of communication before walkie-talkies and cell phones, right? So, but snow snake becomes a game. It's a gambling game. But we don't, addiction's not an issue if everybody's busy working. Addiction is an issue with youth. 80% of people are not working. So every civilization is engaged in a form of gambling. We used to gamble using snow snakes, so we threw it the furthest. So I thought I would put that in there. I was teaching in library at St. James a number of years ago, and we brought back the snow snake, and the kids made this really nice track. And of course, we'd go and cut snow snakes in the forest. We would take old wall panels and room panels, we would decorate them, paint them, and the kids would become engaged in creating their own snow snake and throwing the snow snake down a track. But that's what we did in the winter. And part of it was mathematical, right? So we would do measurement. We would see how long the snow snakes were, and we would measure how far the snow snakes were being thrown. So there's learning and culture. So it becomes engaging for First Nation students, Indigenous students. This is Ojibwe Biskawaga. So I put that there because even when we hunt, just because we're agricultural doesn't mean we don't hunt. Of course we hunt, right? We take advantage of the 4 seasons. But when you hunt, you use every part of the animal. You don't just throw it away. You make a leather jacket. So a lot of our clothing are in museums and anthropological holdings throughout Canada. This is one of them. So I did have moccasins and gloves there, but I wanted to go to this slide. So in my research, what I found out was there was this, so this is from the Milwaukee Public Museum of Copper Culture among the Ojibwe. So there was this billionaire industrialist who passed away about 10 years ago. He had a private museum. And when he passed away, his children didn't know what to do with his private museum. So what he had was ancient Ojibwe tools locked away in his family for probably over centuries. So because they're already billionaires, they're not interested in making any more money, they decided to donate these items to the Milwaukee Public Museum. In fact, if you Google right now, you can have a look at other tools that are on the Milwaukee Public Museum. So, An agricultural community will need an axe. They will need a hoe. They will need something to chop the lumber. We can't be stuck where we cut the wood by putting the poles over the fire. We have tools. We have the Bedevan Lodge talks about copper. These are copper tools. Copper fish hooks. So when we look at Anishinaabe history and historiography, we can't be stuck in time. We need to look at the emerging evidence that indicates we were more than hunters and gatherers. We're also involved in mineral extraction, mining, right? Europeans will say, but you did it in a primitive way. But the way we were doing it, they took those processes and they evolved them and adapted them over time. The processes that they use today are Anishinaabe. So if you're more interested in that, have a look at that site, the Milwaukee Public Museum. What's our word for picking up somebody or a baby? What's our word? Tukun, tukun, tukun. We also use that for kunwenene, which means police officer. But tukun means to pick somebody up, right? Tukunagan. It's not tiknagan, it's tukunagan. We tukunagan nagan jeans. So the tikunagan was used to care for the baby while parents were working. So adaptability, resilience, change. That's the Anishinaabe worldview and way of life. We're not stuck in time. So in the past, so today, in order to keep a baby safe and secure when you're traveling, we put them in a baby seat, and strap them in, they're stuck in there, they're snug, they fall asleep, they feel safe, they feel comfortable. The Tiklanagan was usually the same way. In fact, we're at a conference here, you want to bring your child to prop your baby up on a Tiklanagan, and your baby is engaged in this activity. That's what we used to do back in the day. The babies began learning right away, and you would prop them up on a cradle board. Olivia Poole, an Anishinaabe woman, took the Tiklanagan and reinvented it and re-engineered it. So that's what I mean by adaptability. As Anishinaabe people, we're resilient and we can adapt and we can invent. Olivia Poole is an Ojibwe woman that invented the baby jolly jumper in 1954. Was one of Canada's first women to get a patent and garner worldwide attention. This is one of Canada's first women, right? The reason why she's one of Canada's first women, because in this era, women were not allowed to hold a patent. So not only did she make an invention, she's also one of the first women, an Indigenous woman, to get a patent in Canada. So innovation leadership, right? Amazing. This is a brief clip of Olivia Poole. She's an inventor of the jolly jumper. I don't think you can hear volume. So, Elizabeth Poole, they said she's the first Indigenous woman to get a patent in Canada. She's the first woman in Canada to get a patent. Not just Indigenous woman, okay? But as Indigenous people, we're innovative, we're inventive, we're creators. I also want to, so when we're doing Anishinaabe history, we can't just focus on the negative narratives, although we need to hear them. But we need to intertwine the positive stories into the way we teach our children. If they hear residential schools all day, they're going to cry. If they hear missing people all day, they're going to be extremely upset. Now, I think those are very, very, very important items to teach. However, you need to interweave these other positive stories like Olivia Poole. So you're going to raise these kids up in the classroom. You're going to bring up their self-esteem. You can't just focus on the negative, you got to focus on the positive. So these are three individuals here. The first one on the left here is, in Ojibwe, our word for football is Zedek Bakwak. So this is Jim Thorpe, Anishinaabe Olympian. Also the first president of the National Football League. When we have the Super Bowl every year, at halftime, no mention of the first president of the National Football League, who happened to be an Anishinaabe person, right? So Jim Thorpe played for the Carlisle Indian Day School. And when he aged out, his coach said, "You're too old to play football. Can't play football no more." He goes, "Well, change the rules." He said, "Can't change the rules." So he got together with some of his friends and they created a 14 league, later a 16 league. They said, "We'll charge 5 cents for admission and we'll sell food for 10 cents. He created the first professional football league. That same league becomes the National Football League. Talk about indigenous ingenuity, where you would accept the premise of being told to retire from football because your college career is done. He went ahead and created his own professional football league, which created the National Football League. We need to share these stories, these positive narratives. It's an Anishinaabe history. The one to the extreme right is in Ojibwe, a word for doctor is Mishkiki or Mishkiki Kwek. Dr. Aleka LaFontaine, an Anishinaabe, is the current president of the Canadian Medical Association. In 2023, he's the current president overseeing 75,000 doctors across Canada, and he's an Anishinaabe man, pre-Anishinaabe background. So we need to share these stories. So I talked about our history in the past. We're not stuck in time. We're still contributing to the world that we live in today in extremely meaningful ways. The person in the middle is not Anishinaabe, however. He worked with the Wakumakama High School robotics team, who went to the World Robotics Championships and brought home a band, right? So that's Aaron Yazzie. You know, Ojibwe, our word for rover. Aaron Yazzie co-constructed the rover, and he created the mechanism to drill into Mars. So in Ojibwe, our word for rover is Biwakwa, also translates to metal god. Aaron Yazzie, a Navajo mechanical engineer at NASA, co-constructed the current rover on Mars. This is Indigenous knowledge in 2023. We're not stuck in time as hunters and gatherers. We never have been. We've been evolving, we've been resilient, and we're part of the complex world that we live in. The most advanced science and engineering in 2023 is being led by an Indigenous man, Aaron Yazzie. I sit on a committee at Science North. We brought Aaron Yazzie. We're going to bring him to Manitoulin live, but because of whatever issues he couldn't come, but we zoomed him in. And he's been talking and working with our robotics team here at the high school. I believe when we use technology and engage in those type of connections, we gain immensely from that. But I wanted to share the Indigenous contributions in 2023. and not just focus on the negative narratives, but we also need to interweave our history and our stories with these really rich contextual narratives and stories, historiographies. That's the Wacomico High School Robotics team at the 2019 Detroit World Championships. And that's the banner that they brought back. So we're engaged in science and technology right in our own community. Sometimes we have to leave our community and look at it from the outside to see what impact we are having on the outside world. Our education here is quite impactful, and it's being recognized on the outside. So during the Toronto Raptors championship run, they won the World Series for the championship. Students are quite engaged here. Mr. Mara indicated that they're all into basketball all of a sudden. And we thought, hey, Mr. Mara, can we make a robot that plays basketball? And they said, yeah, you sure can. So this is their basketball playing robot. So that's, you really want to engage students, you have to do it in ways that is meaningful and that you're having fun, right? So this is the video clip from a news agency in the United States, and they interview Aaron Yazzie, Navajo mechanical engineer, and that's him right there.
Drone will be flying alongside. Yeah, sure. So right now, Perseverance rover is inside of its heat shield, and it's flying on its way to Mars at about 12,000 miles per hour. It's going to, later today, it's going to be hitting the top of the atmosphere, entering into Mars's atmosphere with that heat shield, and then there's a couple stages it'll go through to get itself slowed down in time to rest its wheels on the ground. And that involves ejecting its heat shield, deploying a giant parachute. It actually comes down on basically a jetpack for a period of time, and then it will lower itself on what we call a sky crane, basically cables that will lower it to the ground until its wheels are resting on the ground, cuts away that jetpack.
So I just wanted to share this video clip because Indigenous people continue to contribute to the modern world that we live in. There's never been a time in human history in the ways where we haven't contributed at all. But we as Anishinaabe educators, academics, scholars, researchers, language teachers, we have to make the education engaging so that they want to learn. So by sharing with them the work of Aaron Yazzie, the robotics team here in Wacomico, is going to go beyond and excel in some of the work that they're doing. And they're going to have fun, and they're going to become engaged, and they're going to learn about their robot and the work that the robot does in the world that we currently live in. So that's Aaron Yazzie. So this morning, I talked about Anishinaabe language and why we need to learn it. But if we're going to want to learn Anishinaabe language, we also need to know who the Anishinaabe people are. We need to know their history. We need to know that they grew agriculture. We need to know that they made massive engineering fish wares. We need to know that their doctors are medical associations. We need to know that high school robotics teams are with world scientific leaders at NASA. We need to present Anishinaabe in that way. Then you'll want to learn the Anishinaabe language. Because everything about my presentation is part of the Anishinaabe language, is part of Anishinaabe way of life, and it's part of Anishinaabe worldview. That's my presentation today. Chiliwich.
Somebody has their hand up, I think there's a question. Is that for Dominic? I'll bring it up.
Bakugita naman ay hockey, na mas nabigay niya ito na gamitin mo. Ito na natin ang pagkakamit na kiyat, is magkikita mo at pagkakam sulit, resolusi mo, may gusto, kita yung mga gawin na nilagkaswa, hockey lang mo. Dami ko ang tayo kumatin niya, gulo. Kasi ko gusto ka na ito, at is gawin siya bang gagawin na hockey.
Bobby, what's you with the headway? I talked earlier a little bit about hockey. So that's a good question. I think hockey's been around for a very long time. But from my research, what I can find is the Mi'kmaq on the East Coast. We're the first to produce a manufacturing industry producing the first hockey sticks for organized hockey in Canada. So there's a variety of sources and videos and information. If you Google the Mi'kmaq hockey stick, they found an old hockey stick in a store. It kind of looked like just a stick with a curve on it. But after it was analyzed by anthropologists and historians, it turned out to be one of the oldest hockey sticks in North America or in the world. And it went on eBay. I think they were trying to auction it. I think it was going for $1.6 million. But in the end, it ended up with a museum in Ottawa. So the Mi'kmaq were the first to produce hockey sticks, but the history tells us that the settlers created the game. But I think with more research, we begin to learn a little bit more about some of the sports that created. But a good question, good question.
Anishinaabemowin. I'm just kidding. Anishinaabemowin.
Guy, you sound like you can see Mi'kmaq. These two meninos Mawa, Bemwebeget. Yeah. Some people say Bemwebeget, and some people say Joskodwedene or Joskodwed. But I've heard Joskodwedene or Bemwebeget. Bemwebeget means the country. Good question. So most of the things that I talked about are Anishinaabe, but some of them are also not Anishinaabe. The Mi'kmaq, although they're Algonquin, but they're their own individual nation and they have their own confederacy on the East Coast. And the last person I talked about was Aaron Yazzie. He's also not Anishinaabe. He's Navajo. But I included him in the story because he's been working with the Wakamekong robotics team. And I also wanted to highlight the achievements of Indigenous science and engineering. So that's why I included him. But he does have a connection with Wakamekong.
So in the Micmac language, what is the okay, did you research it also?
I do know the word, but I can't recall it right now. Yeah. But again, you know, with advent of free information online, just Google the invention of the hockey stick. It'll bring up the Mi'kmaq people. I'm not sure what their word is for it. I remember seeing it. And there's also video clips, kind of like the video clip I shared regarding Olivia Poole inventing the Jolly Jumper. So there is a video clip regarding the Mi'kmaq, the oldest Mi'kmaq hockey stick. Good question. Honey.
I'd like to share something. This has to do with the hockey helmet. Monkey, Wequemco, here in Wequemco, back in the day when some of the men would rise up and play hockey. So back then they would venture off to Killarney. They would walk across on the ice. Of course, there were wolves and whatnot out there, eh? They're hungry. They want to eat. So, this one time, as they were going across, this one man, oh, darn, I forgot something. So he tells the others, I have to go back home and get that. You know. So away he goes. On his way, walking back home, he kind of stumbled on something, eh? Some bones, a pile of bones there, something. So, anyway, he picks it up, and what it was the head of a cow. Bishop Key dip. He out one way. We see he top and up, he picked it up now. Kind of get the snow off of it, and then he tries it over his head. We saw it. Oh, he's thinking, I'm gonna take this with me to the army gate. I'm gonna show the guys there, hey, he helped me. And apparently there was a Frenchman in the crowd watching hockey. So he got the idea of creating a hockey helmet just from what he saw the man had on his head. Was that cow's skeletal, you know. Amigos.
How much. That was a very awesome story. That was some really, really powerful presentation about indigenous futures of our present day science with Anishinaabe. Next, we have Henry, who's gonna do a prayer here for our food. And we see some people that are hungry.
Aha, czyli godzina na mamunego. Jeśli godzina nie się szanuje, to jak to były wędrówki, jeśli nie szanuje nie. Że to wszystkiego nam wymaga mamunego. Aż mi godzina nie jest. A człowiek czy nie wierzą w mam, jeśli mam czy nie. I nam padnie nam wyjść a to jest Mudas meeting ko kaya na sa kanong ko, kaya bigot siya na. Bigot siya kaya nung mga chipak ko siya. O kung siya namin gusto mo yung mga ako siya yung mga. Si bigot siya na namamot ka ng dalo. Kaya yung kami ay esumis namin yung kaya. Ang kaya meeting mo kami siya. Kaya mo kaya ko kaya kapto. Kaya siya na sa atin. Nogi siya ba nung siya nang bigay siya. Nogi ko kaya siya. Not matta, sakit ka. Madenda, miłość.
Now, Manona, Quack. Happy lunch. All you bucket people over there. You may now eat me snack. Also, can we get some volunteers to help serve our elders? As we usually do, take care of our elders, our women, our children. Usually get to go first. Okay. Are there any elders? Bishop? We have an elder niche. Two elders. If anybody could volunteer to get these two elders a plate of food. Any other elders who need to be served still? Huh? Okay. Next, I just wanted to say we have Dennis and Dudley who are going to play some music for us while we dine, so we could feel all fancy. Chipwa.
I'm good to go. I think a lot of people know this song already. We've seen it quite a few times on the hits. It's called The Walking View. My dad used to sing it. It's in the language and English. Loving in the ocean to go on and in the ocean to go on and in the ocean to go on Loving in the ocean, go dancing, and in the ocean, go dancing, and in the ocean, go dancing, oh, hand me down, my walking king, hand me down, my walking king, hand me down, my walking king, for I got hitched at midnight tree, from my state. Oh, hand me down, my walking corn, hand me down, my walking corn. And then I got the corn, where I'm gonna get drunk and cheers more. Promise to stay no way. I got drunk, and I got to jail. I got drunk, I got to jail. I got drunk and I got to jail. That don't matter to my bill. Promise to stay no way. Oh, the beat turned up, and the beat was fast. The beat turned up, and the beat was fast. The beat turned up, and the beat was fast. Oh, Lord, I couldn't beat that. Promise to stay no way.
in Tennessee. If I die in Tennessee, if I die in Tennessee, should be back by COD. Rolling, rolling, and when they bury me in my grave, when they bury me in my grave, when they bury me in my grave, so on my walk of king, roll the rest of the day away. I'm in the ocean, the ocean, I'm in the ocean. Ocean, and in the ocean, ocean, I'm a cookie with it, I'm in Ashton, give me the dog. Elijah was a wooden Indian standing by the door. Down in the river, Indian, nobody at the store. Elijah stood there and never shore, so she could never answer his own. All his boots on the feathers and fell on the wall. Waiting for her to rest and lonesome day. Elijah stood there and shrugged on the sign. But his heart was beat about it. Because of Elijah, we got you gonna see. Because of Elijah, I can't in this town. Mama dying, just me ready, reaching the gospel. Elijah, to get lifted, but it's strong. Waiting for her to get ready on Sunday. As lonely as you be, wishes he was still on my tree. And one day while he was walking with me, the girl so far away, oh, glad to see. Elijah stood there, lonely as you be. Wishes he was still on my tree. Because of Elijah, we got you gonna see. Because of Elijah, I continue strong. And all my dreams been great, reaching the gospel. Elijah, to get them to the Nice to see you again.